That would be actually good. Yeah, I love to talk to the microphone because I have a wonderful voice when I speak to the microphone. But it doesn't work. Doesn't work? It does work? Okay, hi. This is, it's really a wonderful occasion to have you all here. And we will be having some people, more people when the class, which just started, is over. This is first important moment in which the Transregional Center for Democratic Studies, Tcds, and public seminar, which is PS, it rhymes together well. So we are launching, this is the first time that we have a shared joint event. And even more important, it is the time that both of us, Chef and I, are again welcoming here Krzysztof Czyżewski, who I checked in my notes, spoke in this school in 2007, just 7 years ago. You want to say something?
Say something. It's great to be here with both as the editor of the new online space for public discussion and deliberation, public seminar, and kind of invite you to visit. It's www.publicseminar.org. We are recording this event, video recording, and I hope we have a wonderful discussion and trust actually that the discussion will continue virtually as well, but all that is kind of technical stuff. Krzysztof is a man that I've long admired and deeply respect, and it's fantastic to be here to greet him again and to again have a public discussion with him about his very exciting work.
Those of you who are in Krakow may remember him. I don't know whether there are people who were in Krakow at that time, but Krzysztof actually taught, or we taught together a course in Krakow many years ago. And then he visited us in Wrocław, so it is really coming back home, not only in the new school, not only here in New York, our Lang College, people who are already well-known actors and graduate students somewhere, studying here or somewhere else, theater workshops with Krzysztof. So this is just to sum up our long but exciting history together. Krzysztof Czyżewski is practitioner of ideas. Krzysztof Czyżewski is a person who has established in the northeast corner of Poland the place, a phenomenon known in various parts of the world as the center of arts, cultures, and nations, and borderland center of arts, nations, and cultures in a small place called Sejny. This is a particularly happy occasion for us to have him here, because in a month, I think more or less, in a month he's going to go to Israel, where he will receive a Dan David Award. Some people say that this is a Nobel Prize in Humanities award that he is sharing with Pierre Nora and Saul Friedlander this year, and so we are here to congratulate you already, and invite you to talk with us about the work that you are doing in Sejny for almost exactly 25 years ago. So my first question this is to be conversation. We are not going to talk as much. Krzysztof is going to talk, but this is to help you out to understand where we are. Our first question to Krzysztof, and my first question to Krzysztof is, well, tell us how it happened that you, a theater person, theater director, actor, ended up in that, from a sizable, nice city in western Poland, and ended up in the northeastern corner, marginalized place, unknown place, in 1990?
Yes. Thank you very much, Elżbieta.
This is working.
Yes. Thank you very much, Jeff, for bringing me again here to New School. Really, I feel at home in New School in New York. And my experience with this meeting is that it's always kind of follow up what I love in the past time. Many of people I've met here during these meetings visited borderland. We cross our paths very often, so I hope the same will happen this time. Thinking and trying to answer your question about the beginning and how it happened, from today's point of view, I see it as a moment when borderland as a concept appeared many years ago. It was exactly the moment I felt a kind of insufficiency in what I was doing. So being a theater person in Gardzienice theater group in Poland, as an actor, as a person who at the same time was traveling to different parts of the world for kind of, we called it at that time expeditions to traditional communities which kept ancient rituals and traditions. So we were exploring, kind of singing rituals, gestures, dances, and incorporated into the avant-garde theater in the 70s and 80s. That is my background, in fact. Two things happened for me. That there was a moment when I felt that theater is not enough. And the second was that this intercultural exchange, or we would call it today, intercultural dialogue, was only just on the surface, initiating something, opening something, but finishing at the moment I wanted to continue. So what happened with theater is another story. Maybe we can talk about this later. I lost my trust and my engagement in theater as a theater person at that time. But what was very relevant at that moment, this feeling, of course it was intuition. I didn't have an answer what I should do and how. But this moment when you travel to the community and ask people to engage in work with you and ask them to share with you some important for them things like memories, like stories, like art and traditions. So you initiated something, yes, like exchange. They gave you a lot, kind of potlatch you receive from the people. And then you spend with them a few days, you open some hope, promises and so on, and disappear. And never come back, usually. Because you are artist, because you are theater person. So because festivals are for you. Because your way of continuing this work is, already in this pattern of being a festival theater group, which we travel, from one place to another. And there was no tool, time, technique, anything to make us coming back and to make us continue to go deeply in that kind of relationship and culture. So it was like a calling for very strong, because these relationships I had with these people was very strong. And what we did really help us to build a bridge, in fact, which was engaging both sides, but there was no possibility for us, to keep it going, to continue, to develop it, to go deeply. So that's how the concept of borderland started. This dream that I could. We organized in 1989. When transformation started in Poland and Central Eastern Europe. That time.
It's exactly 25 years ago, by the way.
Right.
That Poland negotiated its transition, peaceful transition from whatever it was, to democratic
Whatever it
order.
is.
Right.
So we decided just to, because of these changes and because something was in the air that we should start something new. We don't have a clear idea what, but the decision was to make a journey to the east. That was our first project, in fact, following Hermann Hesse novel, Journey to the East. That's how I'm a practitioner of ideas. Reading it, it's always to keep in mind how to do it. Yeah. The program we do now is Castalia, and in Krasnogruda Center, another Hesse's book. But at that time was Journey to the East, so just travel. We built cars for our team and our family, for our kids. So we had one horse and one jeep.
A wagon,
yeah, wagon.
Driven wagon,
Yes.
okay.
And one was for our children, second for scenography of the theater. We were the theater group at the time, and just started to travel to the east of Poland as far as it was possible, just to the border with Lithuania, Belarus, and close to Russian Kaliningrad border. And the decision we made, which was the most revolutionary thing I did in my life, was not to cross this place, saying it. Yeah, not to show a few times performance of the people, not to organize only gathering with the people, but to stay for 25 years now. And not knowing what we really should do. We didn't have a plan, a strategy, any kind of master plan of that. We only felt deeply, because of what happened before for us, that we should stay.
What did the people say? From saying it, those people who lived there all their lives.
For the first time, they said, "Oh, gypsy are coming." Gypsies. Because it looked like, gypsy caravan came to town.
And then when you stayed a while, what did they say?
Maybe Jews.
Yeah. I knew the answer.
Yeah, that's why I asked that question. They must be Jews, right?
And this, because also the space we inhabited was the very center part of the city, former Jewish quarter, and we revitalized the synagogue, the yeshiva school, and Hebrew gymnasium, which are now our buildings of the center. So it was a very natural way for people to think that, everybody goes back to the owners after communist collapse. So
private property is back, so
Yes.
people came to claim it.
monastery came to the Catholic Church back, so synagogue maybe.
Yes, to the Jews, right.
But it was nothing, negative in that.
So it was really exploration of this borderlands that you started then. You began to live there, and all your projects were kind of oriented around that neighborhood that you were, or aimed at the neighborhood that you lived in, right? And that was, I almost feel like we shouldn't talk about what happened then, but this is not to say, you are still on your way, so to speak. The journey didn't end, but where are you now?
This first moment,
Actually, let me ask, I know that lots of people know you, your work, and
Yeah.
what Seine is. But perhaps you should describe a little, that it's a rich region and complicated nationally, religiously, ethnically.
Yeah. Yes.
It's not so far from Ukraine, and the kinds of problems that are appearing in Ukraine are problems that are indigenous, are very much typical of that region. So I think a little bit description of the place, the meaning of the place, I think would be helpful for you.
Absolutely, because the reason we stayed and choose this place was not only that it was far east, but also this context of multicultural heritage of this Religion was very important for us. Still we have Lithuanians, Poles, rational believers. I don't know if you are familiar with this kind of Amish people we had in our borderland who escaped from Russia in the 18th century and keeping very traditional way of living, and of course rich Jewish heritage, ruined after Holocaust. There are no Jews in our town living today.
But they are Lithuanians, aren't they?
Yeah, no, lots of
Lots of. So very closely Belarusians, also Ukrainians, which were sent or were deported by communists after the war to the so-called new ziemie odzyskane,
recovered
territories. So we have also them, Roma gypsies, and some traces of Tatars, Armenian people also. So kind of all Jerzy Stępowski, a great Polish borderland writer, would say old civilization. That's how he was calling this territory, which once created one culture, of different languages, religious traditions, and so on, destroyed. So it's like a post-genocide, post-Holocaust region with broken bridges, like a destroyed mosaic into different pieces. That was the situation we experienced from the beginning. Everything was separated in terms of, because of 20th century, people were learned to live in close communities rather and focus on the national separate identity and difference. That's how you could survive in the 20th century in the borderlands. That's all kind of what we call now borderland people, who are bridge builders, who are in between and trying to be like negotiators between different cultures of bridge builders, were losers somehow in 20th century. So that was the painful situation, especially in that borderland between Poles and Lithuanians. It was a local home war just after the First World War, when new national states were built after 1918. There was just a war about to which new national state the region of Seine will belong, Poland or Lithuania. So it was, not this kind of war that you have occupant and occupant disappeared after, yes, or you have an army coming and the army is disappearing. Everybody stayed after the war, and everybody knew who was shooting to whom, and so on. So these memories were very strong, in the people's mind. So very tense borderland, and I would easily see that we can have a kind of a replica of the same situation as in former Yugoslavia, if not the work which was done by culture people just after Second World War. And this is the tradition we wanted from the beginning to refer to. I mean the tradition of so-called Paryska Kultura, Paris Culture magazine, which was published in Paris by Jerzy Giedroyć and his team, having on the board people like Miłosz Dąbrowicz, Kołakowski, and many others.
A journal edited by the diaspora people who are in political exile and that kind of thing. Very
specific situation. And just for people who are interested in me, the person who introduced me to things Polish, Alicja Wanska, was also very active
on the journal.
So when I talk, for example, with people from former Yugoslavia, yes, and I remember we had several cycle of meetings in Sarajevo, Belgrade, Mostar, and other cities about this tradition of Paryska Kultura. For them it was really amazing that the emigrant people, did not fuel the country's situation with nationalism and with this kind of ideology, but the emigrant people created, a very pragmatic concept how to solve the problems on our eastern borderlands, resigning from our eastern lands, let's say, which are now in Ukraine, Lithuania, Belarus, not only resigning, but engaging into independence movement of Ukrainian independent state, Lithuania and Belarus. So to just establish contacts with circles of people in this country and help them engage after the collapse. So they envision that Soviet Union once will collapse and after the new states appears. And so we, in 1989, we in fact had a strategy of our Eastern policy, and we were somehow prepared. I mean, not
you
everybody.
And your group?
Yes, not everybody. Yes, but it was something what prevented, in Poland to have, this concept after the communist collapse of regaining, for example, Lviv was part of Ukraine, or regaining Vilnius, was part of Lithuania, and so on. So today we have some voices like that, and now we have again a new situation on Polish borderland, Polish-Ukrainian borderland, and so on. About these propositions we received from Zhirinovsky and guys like that from Russia. So there are new dangerous things coming. So, but at that very moment, 25 years ago, there was the work done. I'm underlying it also because very often somebody is telling to us, okay, Brezhnev together with Kohl and somebody
And the Pope
gave us,
yes,
the things what we have. Not at all. There was a cultural, pragmatic work done over many years, and we, creating Borderland Center, were somehow trying to continue this tradition in practice.
So there is this borderland that you are working on, and you are thinking about it, and you are trying to name and see it as a site of amazing or kind of unthinkable opportunities, the kind of the places on the edge, creative edges, right? That things could happen. In your recent work, in your very recent work, you are talking about two categories, and I'm kind of attracted to that, and I want you to talk a bit about it. One is related to borderlands, and you talk about the agon of borderland. And the second is something which I don't particularly like the way it sounds in English. We talked about it, but when you listen to him, you would understand what it is. The second category is the category of deep culture. So if you could talk with us about it, what does it mean, and how is this translated into what you are doing in saying it, but also how that can perhaps radiate, or how that radiates or might radiate to other borderlands. Because indeed, we have been much more concerned with the centers than with the edges, peripheries, provinces of borderlands.
Yes, in this broken bridges landscape, which I think is very, more and more I work in different parts of the world, I see that it's a rather common situation for us everywhere. I don't know the place in the world where bridges were not broken before. So this work is mostly about rebuilding years ago or many years ago broken bridges. So our communities are always, with these memories of broken ties, of being betrayed, or some other tragic situations happen with otherness, with this neighbors we are living together with. So that's I'm trying to do it to take it as not only negative situation and context, but as something what is what can have a positive dimension and energy, because there is no illusion for me about living in peace and love in the borderlands. And if we create the illusions that we can come back to the situation when we will live without conflicts, tensions, and quarrels, and so on, it is very dangerous. Rather, so trying to answer the question which is very often raised to us: did you solve the conflict, or did you manage to overcome prejudices or stereotypes? I don't have answer for yes. Yeah? We don't solve conflicts. In fact, we try to develop the art, the craft, which helps to live with conflicts, the whole community, to take it as a natural situation and to try to have some positive possibilities from that, because the borderlands, we have two extremes, from one side you have borderlands in fire, yeah, that's a stereotypical view of the borderlands, and from another you can mythologize borderlands as a rich, peaceful, living together, and multiculturalism. So in real life it is different. So it is like agon. Yes, it's like as a permanent situation. You are struggling with yourself and with the context you are living in, and this is what I like. In fact, this is the truth about, I think, the human nature. When a few days ago we were working in Newark with Rutgers University, and we've met people who are working in the organization youth field in Newark, so-called difficult young people. I remember that during conversation with them, I've heard one guy standing up and saying, because the question was what we should do and how we should think about our life, he was standing up and saying, my wish is to be different tomorrow from what I'm today, and for better, of course, the wish was. But I thought, what a universal wisdom of him, because I think this is what connects us all. It doesn't matter if you are difficult youth or rich people or educated or from all other contexts. I think each person has this situation, the humans, that it's like crossing ourselves, from day to day life, not to take being as granted, but take becoming as granted. That's what agon is about, that you are just all the time trying to cross the limits, the courtyards, the borders you are defined, and that's create borderland.
So I've witnessed some of your work in this struggle, and admired the work, and it would be very, very interesting to hear you describe what you're up to these days in this struggle. Like what's happening these days in Seine.
In this new moment.
In this new moment, that's right.
We work...
An example, please.
I'm looking for just an example, a description, like that amazing theater piece of the young people. Seine Chronicles. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But that I know about that. I'd like to hear about something new. But if you want to talk about that, that's great too.
that was the thing about Sailing Chronicles is about the performance who trying to explore the memory of community and trying to build kind of an umbrella or shelter for all people living in the community as a one story, common story, in contrary to the situation when each of community has separate stories. So we built a performance which somehow connected all people living today, but also living before in one theater performance, which is like now transmitted from generation to generation. So it's not, it's never-ending performance. In fact, you know, we play it now for 15 years.
Because there are new stories that you discover,
Yes.
new narratives that are coming in and so on, right?
He's not doing it justice.
No.
So it's actually performed by high school kids who actually research the history of their community and then find within themselves, because with guidance from the professional theater people who are indeed connected to the group, they actually reveal talents that are absolutely extraordinary. So it's a moving theater piece telling the story of the town with script being written by the kids of the town.
And organized in such a way that if you imagine this table, but twice as wide, maybe slightly shorter, this is the whole performance revolves around that table, because what it is on this table, it's actually Seine, the little town, shtetl if you wish, with houses, streets, trees made out of clay, very colorful, by those kids who build it themselves. The first generation of performers actually made that city. The city lit with lights, that town, small town, lit with lights, and it's extraordinary, and that's actually the things that are movable. So when they are telling the story about the person who lives in this particular house, you actually feel you're there. It's very difficult to explain it, but it's really this space and the organization of space and how time finds its way to that space. It's extraordinary. And I think what is also extraordinary is that, you know, the other very important category here is generation. So generation after generation, if they are already there 25 years, I don't know how old is the performance. 15 years. So you have, you know, so it's the third generation probably, right? Mm-hmm. Kids who went through the high school, and whether they are Lithuanians or Poles or whoever they are, they find themselves as characters in that place. They relive, together with the audience, which surrounds the table, that place. And then it's very difficult to describe, because, you know, theaters are not easy to describe, but that's how we would like you to see it. And it was actually performed here in La Mama, brought by the Polish Cultural Institute. And then line students had workshops with them together. So now you know.
So this is one story.
Yes,
yeah?
okay. That's
now,
our story.
Now the ancient Greek myth of Medea and Argonauts. Medea and Argonauts. And we initiated this work almost a year ago, and it will last for many years from now also. But this is the effort. We try to go together to the sources of the problems we are dealing with. And I've mentioned you this situation of broken bridges landscape. So always the question for us was when it started, you know, and why it is so. And that you, with these memories, which is very crucial part of our work, we always work with memory, different kinds, that it goes deeper and deeper. So my feeling after 20 years of working on the borderland was, and is very much, that Medea is among us, you know, this first alien person taken to the Greek land from Kolchis, from today's Georgia.
Abkhazia.
And Abkhazia, yes. And Abkhazia.
I just checked before
Yes.
coming here. Only that, only reason I'm so smart. I went with the map and tried to find out, and I said, wow,
Yes.
another side of conflict, because that was taken over, as you know, by
Exactly.
Soviets, right? Russians,
Russians,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
yes, yes.
The new Soviets.
And but also with this, with this first expedition of Argonauts crossing the limits of Greek or our Western world, as a scene, yeah, because it was, you know, it was a very risky thing for Argonauts to build a ship which will sail so far, you know, and to learn the craft by Athena. So the Tiphys, the first person who guided the ship of Argonauts, was learned this craft by Athena, the goddess. So there was something, you know, beyond the horizon. So that you know, we decided to cross it, you know, with all ofiara. Sacrifice, yes, and it needed. So this is something becoming very, you know, very common for whole our community. We invented the word with this myth with people who never read Euripides. Yeah,
Of course, so Argonauts, as some of you know, most of you know, were the first sailors, right? Who launched this big trip to get the golden fleece, right? So they transcended the borders. They went beyond the world they knew. And the whole thing, the Argonaut story, is very closely related to the story of Medea. She was the person who was from this kingdom of what's today Georgia, and she fell in love with one with the head Argonauts, Jason, right? And they fell in love, and so she said, okay, I'm going with you. I'm going with you to Corinth. She went with him to Corinth. Incredible, passionate love, wonderful story. This alien woman, nobody ever went as far. I mean, mind you, we are talking about, this is before Troy. That myth goes before Troy. So she comes to Corinth, then you will talk. I'm just going to give help here. So she comes to Corinth, and this is this wonderful thing that at some point Jason is being attracted and offered a hand to marry a princess of Corinth. And he comes to Medea and said, you know what? This would really help me in my life. Why won't I do it? And you know, this woman who was very nervous about what will happen to her in this very strange place that he found herself, very passionately in love with her husband. According to Euripides, there are various stories, is committing this incredible... She's also strange. She is in a way possessed. She is a sorcerer of a kind. So she has various kind of characteristics of not only foreigner or stranger, but really a kind of alien figure in that new world that she ended up, the world of Greece. She, according to get back at Jason, in a vengeance, she creates this garb for the wedding couple, or rather for the wedding for the bride, which is poisoned. The woman dies. Her father dies, who comes to the king, who comes to free her or to help her, and then eventually Medea, possessed woman, alien and insecure, kills also, wants to get back at her husband, and kills two of their children. This is a terrible story. It's a story of somebody who transgressed not just the story of transgressions of various kinds, but also a story of isolation, of being betrayed, of betrayal, the story of feeling out of place, the story of not knowing what happens tomorrow because you are an alien here. And in Greece, that means that you are going to be kicked out of the city, which was a city-state. Now, this is a long story, but this is the basis of the Medea project. Now, you go ahead.
When you hear emotions and Pieta is expressing this story, you understand why it is so moving also for our community. And our people now in Spain tell this story with the same emotions like you do. Medea is ours somehow. So the work we try to do is like it was with synagogue before, how to make synagogue ours in the community, and to let our young people to say, this is our synagogue, yes, this is belonging to us. So the work we do with these ancient myths is exactly in that spirit that we try to, and it's very easy, because this is something what really, it's amazing, but it's something what we remember as human beings, that something what happens here with this civilization we live. Greeks had this term gephyrophobia, which is a fear against the breach. That we started to feel something what was at the very beginning went wrong, with the meeting with the other. So the first broken bridge, which is a story about Argonauts and Medea, somehow Medea never died. There's no evidence of she as a goddess or the hero dying. Yeah? She went among us and disappeared, yeah? As a broken person, betrayed, by us. So the power of this myth is something what Homer was describing about the stories that is on the mouth of everybody, yeah? In ancient world, pre-Trojan world. That's how Kirke is telling this story to Odysseus in Odyssea, the story which is on the mouth of everybody, so touching everybody really. And when we started to work from kids to the old people in our community on this myth, reading stories, reading mythology, but also seeing, Pasolini movie, Lars von Trier movie, inviting on Medea, and inviting different people, it became, our situation, our women, our borderland, our mothers, and our sins, and so on. And of course, the question is how we do this work, how we do it in the concept of deep culture, because it's so it means that we just don't want to present it as a just performance, or just a piece of art as an exhibition. That's the problem we try to face and challenge with culture, is that this is like a stone taken out of the river. That we have culture and art like something, into the gallery, into the museum, into the Philharmonic. Taking from environment.
Space.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the question for deep culture and for our work is how to come back with artistic activities into the whole environment, and to build back around the story, the whole natural environment. So what it means that the kolkhiz of Medea,
which is the place from which Medea came to.
Medea, the kingdom of sun, because Aeetes was son of sun, the gods of sun, is our small homeland, Samian villages. Yeah, and the question that the golden fleece was stolen from the community is a question of our community. Yes, we raise. We live in the communities without golden fleece somehow. Yeah, of course, it was stolen. In different ways. Somebody today, I think we were talking about Zakopane. The culture situation we have, this very touristic place in Poland.
In Tatra Mountains.
Yeah.
Beautifully located.
Yeah. So the golden fleece was stolen because of tourism. Everything is on exhibition now in this place. Yes? Nothing natural. So there is no vital culture because tourism stole something what was authentic and deep for the whole community. Many reasons: wars, conflicts, situations happen that we live with culture as having it as a little bit alien thing from us, from the whole context and environment. So to come back with the story of Medea to the community is to coming back with storytelling. Yeah, so we have a workshop, a studio in this kolkhiz of storytelling. So we started again, to make stories to be told, amongst the people and explore. Yeah? we need music for that, from the ground. So we work with very ancient sounds of Lithuanian tradition from our lands, Tcds, which are pre-Christian tradition of this land, to incorporate it to the story. We work with childhood of Medea, so the moment when the child is for the first time experiencing the otherness. The Bożena Schroeder, who directed the Sejny Chronicles, is having this wonderful now studio on working with kids on this first threshold when they cross the border with the otherness as a kid, as a child. We have the workshop of
So when they notice that
yes,
there is somebody who is not like them,
like a fat person in the classroom, yes, or speaking
like
other
what person?
fat, yes,
Okay.
or speaking other language,
right.
yes, or when it happened, for the first time, because it is so decisive for our life, this first moment when we face the otherness and how it happened. If it is failure from the beginning, it defines the whole life we have. So we are touching this situation. We work with mask as an element of this story. So there is a whole studio of playing and making the otherness with the mask and with creating different masks. We have a apotheke, so the pharmacy, all kind of natural herbs and organic plants were used for healing. Because as you mentioned, Medea was a healer. She was in this good term, sorcery, so that she knew how to heal, how to cure. And we have friends in Tbilisi, in Georgia, who now organize a museum of medicine in the name of Medea in Tbilisi. So there is a whole. So we explore this traditional way of curing body and so on, or making kitchen also at the same time, engaging doctors to this work from our region, and they are part of this work.
You mean physicians?
Physicians, yeah. We have the studio of sewing and making tapestry.
Sewing, yeah.
Sewing. So, which will also give this aspect of creating something in common for the whole community, so many people can do this one piece of tapestry, which will be the part of the story, and so on. So 13 studios around Medea in the local community, and for example, what is very important, it's something what Greeks called xenia, the hospitality. The problem with Jason and Medea is not because they were married. For Greeks, to marry barbarian woman was not law.
Somebody from outside the garden, yeah.
But he agreed to be a host of Medea, so he take the potlatch from her and gift of hospitality from there. So she offered him xenia, and he betrayed it. So even for Greek, with barbarians, it was a crime somehow. The question of hospitality, it will be a very important part of the story. How we can make this community hospitable, but at the same time thinking that nobody will steal the golden flea, or something what is the mystery or treasure of this community. That means that after working like year, 2, 3, when you come to our place in 2, 3 years, we will invite you for this storytelling, so that you can be part of this story, which will last not just like performance lasts, but we plan that it will like 2 days and 1 night story. We will invite people to take part and be kind of a participant of the story we are creating with people living around the place we are working.
So it sounds very grand, and in Saint Chronicles, it's structured very tightly around the village and the very specific people who inhabited the village and were no longer there. And I'm really curious. I see the elements of expression and the way that the elements of expression are being passed on in the workshop. And listening to you and listening to Elshbeth, I see how the story can be applied to the experience of the people of that place, poetically and powerfully. But I'm wondering how it comes to be owned by the people you're working with in the way that the story of Sena is relatively easily owned by the kids that I saw. There's something kind of grand about this and ambitious about this that surpasses the ambition of Sena. On the other hand, with Saint Chronicles, on the other hand, the Saint Chronicles had a simple elegance which actually made it work. And I'm curious how the people in the community, the kids, the adults, and this is a community not of high culture. This is.
They never saw Euripides on stage.
If it weren't for them, and they've changed the community, this is a backwater. This is, the equivalent of Appalachia in America. It's a poor place. It's a place of superstition. It's a place of kind of suspicion and
prejudice.
And prejudice. And it's a killing field. And I just have to add, as a Jew who goes there, and I'm not the only Jew who has gone there, there's a great deal of respect for the ghosts. Therefore, the award in Israel. The synagogue is not desecrated, but actually respected. Not religiously as Jews would, but in the proper spirit that's admirable. So I had to add that. But I'm really curious how you incorporate the community into this complicated story. I'd sort of like to know the steps. I'm sure that there are steps. But I'd like to know about that.
I would just add one thing, because I tried to read some stuff in Polish here that I got from Seini, and there is this term that Jeff very nicely kind of connected to the issue, but he didn't use the term ourness. So something is there, and something is our, but it's ourness. To what extent there is ourness in that story?
Not easy, of course, but my deep belief and I'm living 25 years with these people, and I'm learning from them a lot. So somehow they prepared me to work with Medea and Argonaut Smith.
Was it your idea? Whose idea was it?
I think as a Medea concrete my. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
I was. There
came after this woman from Chechnya or before?
Before. Yeah. But so there is a call. Yeah. That you feel something, the kind of need. After working with the community, and you just look for the material for that, something you can explore. Yeah. And so I was always searching for something in common, that we really can go to the ground, to the common ground, which is before any kind of divisions. Pasolini was this person who believed that we had once one culture. Maybe it was very naive, but when you see his movies, this kind of syncretism he has with different costumes, music, gestures, he incorporated everything from different cultures, but in belief that once it was common. And so my belief is that we have in our civilization stories which refer to this common ground. Yeah, they could be then, part of a classical Greek studies like Euripides, yeah, or another discipline, yeah, of our culture. But the potential of them is much deeper than the specialization of any kind of discipline. So when you go deeply into media, that's the experience after 1 year. That's why I'm saying that people are now saying about this with such emotion as you are saying, that it's so really, it's fascinating when you are experiencing discussion after Pasolini debate, movie with them. For example, we had a great discussion about, you may be familiar with this movie and wonderful book by Toni Morrison, Pilar, which is also referring to media situation, and you remember the situation of mother who decides in a very traumatic situation to rather kill the child than to make them slave again. Yeah, and it was, really powerful discussion we had about that moment with our people. So you had a situation about mothers caring about children, in a very primal situation, that sometimes you want to defend them from the world, and in the midst you have extreme expression to that, yeah, but it just manifests something what is deeply hidden inside. So this fear and this instinct, well, it's not artificial, for them. The same question when you care about the first meeting with otherness of your kids. Yes, that you should care about that. You should put attention to that. So all this, or about Ksenia, about hospitality, and so on. So this helps you to explore something what is deeply, in the memory of community. Like archetypical situation which you deeply, waking up. And of course the question is what kind of form to find for that. You've mentioned, Jeff, that Seine Chronicle had a very defined and concrete form of the performance.
Of the final product,
of the final product. Now we are feeling with this exploring of this deep culture and finding for environments that it is too close for us as a framework. So that we just want to extend it into this 2 days and 1 night time dimension, because very much in the work we do, the major question is about the time, how to regain time into the art work. Yeah, that we
how to bring the temporal in something which is basically spatial, right? Spatial, no?
But also that we do it for so short term kind of events, yeah, that we don't have time, in fact, to go deeply, yeah, or to have time to explore in culture. So we operate in culture in short term periods and forms and so on. So the work, the struggle we do, that's why we have Center for 25 years, so it's one dimension of time. And we have few years for doing this project. I remember working with young students here a few years ago. The question to Bożena was, what is your technique to work with these kids while they are so mature in acting, in the performance? And her answer was, I have time. Because she can work 4 or 5 years with them on that characters and the role on the daily basis. So it becomes like an essence, of what they do.
I remember that when you were coming here, it was so important that you come that very spring, because the kids are going to the universities, and that would be their final moment to show that the work they did for so many years, but interviewing and adding to that.
So thinking about you, for example, being invited to Seine, to Krasnogruda, I'm thinking exactly together with people, and it's our common feeling, that you should not just jump for 2 hours for the performance, that we should create for you opportunity to stay longer.
Because it takes
This is
a
an
long,
invitation.
it
This is an
takes a
invitation.
very long time to get
To go there.
That's why
People are only once so far.
People who visit, such as me, have invested something significant. Especially if you're coming from Poland. If you come from Lithuania,
You
it's
can
easy.
go to Vilnius and it's easier.
You see, I recently, it's maybe a little bit aside our topic, but in fact it's kind of deep culture. I was invited by our forest men, workers, leśnicy, to trace a very special bird, which was called głuszec, grass, yes, who lives in a very deep wood.
It's a flying creature, okay? Let's just make sure that
Yes,
you...
so I had to come in the middle of at the midnight. We had several hours to go there and to reach the moment of the dawn, of very dawn, because he is singing only, for a short time on the borderline between night and day, and it's, so it took us like 12 hours for the whole expedition, and to trace the bird, to find him, to hear in the all natural context and so on. And of course, I can have it in zoo. I can have
You can
a
see it,
bird,
yes,
the same bird. Yeah. And
But
in
the song
zoo,
maybe is difficult.
in a short time, yeah. But the whole context of what I should do, exploring and traveling and going and experience light, time, day and night and everything, it's part of the story. Yeah. Why I should cut you off, inviting you to our story of all these contexts. Yeah. So my thinking and together with people is, just to find a way of deep culture that we can, again be together, in something which is not on the stage or just not a picture in the gallery, but
Medea is not just it's not just about a woman, but it's also about people. It's about migrations, right? And there was this story. I just asked you whether there was before or after. There was this real story that had happened on the Polish-Ukrainian border. Can you talk about it, and what kind of, in which way did you, or were you able to incorporate it into your the explorations that you are talking about?
which you mean?
About this Chechen movement.
Yeah. The moment when, there's a typical immigrant story, unfortunately typical, the woman of Chechnya with 3 kids trying to cross the EU border, which was between Poland and Ukraine, and because she was betrayed by the guides, she was lost in the forest.
There's people who are smuggler, right? The people who smuggled them to.
And it was also the fact that behind the story was that they got this message that she is Muslim.
That she's Muslim.
Abandon her somehow in the forest. So she lost kids. Yeah,
they frozen to death.
Yes.
At night in the forest. 2 kids. It's a Medea story. That's why I was asking about.
And it was a case in our media, and I remember the newspaper who published a photo, not even of her face, but only of eyes of her, looking at us, and I immediately felt, this the look of Medea, she's again looking at us. So this was this deep conviction I had from that moment of the eyes looking of a betrayed person at the very beginning, of something. So when you try to build something like a bridge, metaphorically, and to do it honestly, you should go to the ground. Yes, you should go to the something what was on the source of the memory, not to avoid it. somehow. So that's how we try, you know, to do it with Medea. By the way, the bridge will be the second pillar of this story of Medea. It was a long dream of us to build our own bridge finally.
A real bridge?
A real bridge.
Okay.
So, which
From where to where?
Right.
Yes. That's a question. So it, of course, the bridge will tell all the philosophy of bridge building, and for sure it will be not a ready bridge. So the vision we have of this bridge will be that it's not done. Yeah, that you should have a password or something you should know or game, you know, to make these two towers, the bridge. That's how we work on that also.
I don't understand.
Yeah. So because
What do you mean? Yes.
you know,
Do you? I don't know. I mean, tell us again. What do you mean password? Password to the bridge?
you see
Okay.
the Georg Simmel, which is familiar name for
Sociologist,
for
right.
sociology. He wrote a very interesting essay which is called Bridge.
Yes.
And the story is, and he's comparing door and bridge. Bridge for him is a closed structure, so done forever in the landscape. And the difference is that the door can be shut and open for him. But this is exactly for what for me is the bridge. That bridge is not done. That it could be open and closed. That there is a person or you know, like in Mostar, you know, you have a gatekeeper to the bridge. You know, you have two towers from both sides, you know, gating it and so on. So the question is, for me, the truth of the bridge is that it is not done. Yes, that you should make an effort. You should know something to cross. Yeah, to have it as a bridge. How we will put it as a construction, we will see. But by the way, next year we are organizing the village of bridge builders to build this bridge. So
you talked about your roots, about roots in culture and history, but there's also a tradition in Sene of theater practices that goes back, and I wonder if you can just say a little bit about the Gajanica and, you know, moving from what was really a move away from the theater into para-theatrical experience, into performance as such without formal. And with Medea, you seem to be kind of coming around back to theater.
Inspiration by future playwright.
thank you for these questions. First is, yes, the generation aspect of Sene Chronicles is that the stories came from old people of the community, and it's still ongoing process that new generations are exploring and asking grandparents, you know, to share the stories. And so the story is extending, it's longer and longer. But the important aspect of that is that the old generation, they are kind of tutors for the younger. So there is the moment after 5-6 years working together in one group of Sene Chronicles that they invite the younger generation, and there is time together when they share and transmit the knowledge, the characters to the youngsters, being the teachers, mentors, and so on for certain period. But these youngsters had this request also to get new stories, their own stories, and so on. So that's how it's going. And in the community, the very interesting theatrical aspect of that is that the audience knows the story, and each time they are coming, they are very excited. Who will be new Rahela, new character, you know, new guy in the wedding, and so on. So I think this is something about the ancient theater too. That something what we lost, that it's not about telling all the time new stories and concept, but it's something about, incarnations of what is the same or common, yes, and known. And of course, with Medea, somehow I've never brought with theater. So theater was always part of the Borderland Center work. What happened was that we were at this first situation, we started our conversation here, we had very bad feeling being on the stage in front of the people of the community. You have this situation of theater coming, and you are somehow telling something to the people, but in fact, you want them to speak to you, yes, because they are experts, they are knowledgeable people about the context, history, and everything. So you pretend to tell something as a theater group, but in fact, at that time, our dream was to deconstruct the stage and to make people talking also and sharing situation. And that's how, after years, we try to somehow use this richness of what we built together with people and to more and more engage them in the common storytelling. So comparing to Seine Chronicles in Medea, they will be much more part of the story and much more co-creators of that, not like before that they share their own stories, but that they will work on different aspects of the story, which we will incorporate to the final product, let's say. So, for example, the work we do now, one of the studios is, we work with a church choir, with all people who will be like a choir in this story. And having years of work with them, we think to make them the part of the story. So I don't know how we will end up with all, but this is exactly the moment how I can share you our explorations today.
I just cannot help but I have to ask something quickly. Did you know when you were starting Seine Chronicle, and this is after Andrzej and your answer, after starting Seine Chronicle, that what will emerge out of it would be very much like what Athenians saw every year when they were coming every year and seeing another version by another person, another story, another myth enacted of Oedipus the king, for example, right? They all knew those stories. So it is like your people in Seine, they know the stories. They kind of know it better and better, and every year they go through it. They're kind of cathartic, healing, thinking, reflecting, a layer of that. It's incredible, the richness of that, the possibility that it carries with itself, yeah?
Elżbieta, there are two very important levels in what you said. One is that you know the story. So I remember the first reaction of people to the Seine Chronicles was, yes, he's telling truth. Yes, we know it. It is how it was, yes? But now, there is a second dimension. They know, not only because they know the story, but they know also because they know if we are lying as actors and performers or not, if we are authentic as artists or not. This is something amazing what we achieved after 25 years living there.
Coming back to theater.
Exactly. I remember one of my crucial experience from time I worked with Gardzinice. We had a wonderful flamenco singer, Paco Mayano, a child of God, who was traveling all around the world, having concert of flamenco. And he invited me once to come with him to his village in Andalusia. And in the evening, he was invited to sing in taverna. And I saw him trembling. And I asked, Paco, these are your people. Yes, what you are afraid of? And he said,
That's exactly what I'm afraid of, yeah?
Say no. I remember, of course, what it means. You know, in Warsaw, we can applaud him, but we don't know how much he is truthful or not. But these local people, they know what flamenco is and what happened with this guy who went to the world, yes, and what is behind him. You know, this knowledge is of art, is not only of artistic skills, it's, you know, much deeper with all context. So to have an eye of people who know you in all these deepest contexts, I think is the biggest treasure we have from the local people. Yeah.
Yes, Elizabeth. You should talk later, yes, but go ahead. Elizabeth, comment. I mean, I'm just introducing you, saying that somebody's recording here. Yes.
So go,
I'm
say.
Elizabeth Kendall from Lang College. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
The Seine Chronicles is based in the place where they are performed, where they were made and where they are performed, and the material comes from the place. The Medea Chronicles comes from another place. And the placeness, therefore, is part of my question. And also you mentioned friends from Tbilisi
Yes.
who have worked with you, or have they come to talk about their place? I don't think there is a sea in the middle of Seine where you can sail.
From which Argonauts could go. Yeah.
Yeah, so could you talk about the place dimension a little?
Right. I'm touching every ground, yes, with this work. Of course, space is so crucial for this work. And we did, you know, expeditions to Kolchis, you know, last year, visiting all these Poti, Vani and other places. And we had friends from Georgia working with us on this program. And this summer we will have kind of, you know, 2 months of incarnations of Medea. We invite philosophers, performers, writers, artists to share the Medea stories in different languages and forms. Because this is also what is part of the work of this work, that you see it as many incarnations, many faces of that, and it's another level you work with this work. It makes you part of the community also, and so on. But the question about the very place is crucial, of course. Seine was the very place for Seine Chronicles as a small town. And now we have another space for our work. Since few years we revitalize Czesław Milosz family manor house near just on the border with Lithuania, in a very nature, on the lake, within an incredible natural space around, surrounded by different villages.
We know it well from the poetry.
Yes, yes. And we are surrounded by agricultural people, by people who cultivate earth. That's the neighbors we have, and that's mostly people who will be part of the story. In fact, they children themselves.
People who work with the soil.
Yes. And so this becoming slowly our own cultures. Yeah, this environment, having different studios I've mentioned to you, so working on different crafts with these, you know, ancient sounds, like Sutartinės with Lithuanian people, or we are working on the birds. We have the whole ornithological studio working on the sounds and meanings, symbolic meanings of the birds from, so we are doing with children Atlas of Krasnogruda, Bird Atlas, and so all these, I don't know, but it happens, you know, all this natural pharmacy, yes, which is also from the villages around. So everything what happens is from that ground. And of course the question is, could we have this community? Because it's kind of a community building. Yeah, this story is like, in some way, Seine was for Seine. This is another kind of community building. That you ask about golden fleece in metaphorical sense as what we share together. Yes, what is our story?
What are our wounds?
Yes, and I don't say that we will use Euripides' words. We probably will write our own story after all these studios. So we will have our own script of that, but but we somehow it will refer to this ancient Medea Argonaut myth.
So, Cecilia Rubino from
Yes.
Lang.
Oh, hello. Do you remember? Yeah.
It's so wonderful to see you. I missed going out to Newark, and I have a question.
She teaches theater at Lang, just
I
for
had
those
the
of you who
privilege
do
of
not
having
know. And they had that
myself
workshop
come
together.
and teach a workshop to my Lang College students a couple of years ago, and have them come and see the Senche Chronicles, which was at La Mama. I'm struck by your Medea story, and Medea's with an S on the end, like Steiner's Antigones, right? But it's so sprawling and so huge. So in the Senche Chronicles, which is a piece which is about an hour and a half long, it's structured so simply. It's you literally have a set. There are houses on the set. The children come and pick up a house, and the story follows from there. And then they come into the audience with secrets at the end and speak to individual audience members, which is quite astonishing. How, if you envision the Medea piece being 2 or 3 days long, much like a Greek festival, how are you structuring it, not just with place, but with, how does it tie together, or does it yet tie together?
Not yet.
Okay.
So it's we are at the very beginning of that stage. I can share with you some intuitions I have, but it's in the process very much today. But something what was at the beginning, at the ground, and it was a common understanding with whole team of the Borderland, was that we need a new form for that. Yes, it's very special because Czesław Miłosz, our mentor, was always dreaming about something what he was called forma bardziej pojemna.
The form much more
Capacious.
Yay! Yes, capacious form, right? Something which could be.
So he tried to, to structure the poetry book, including correspondence, citation, quotations, part of life, poems together, finding, something what is more contagious. Yes, and the same. We are exactly at the same challenge now, that we feel that it's too narrow what we had till now. We don't know toward what we will go. For example, but we have some experience, and for example, one is that we want to incorporate the night time. That's how we work with children, for example. And when Bożena is taking kids for workshop, she always thinks about having them over the night, taking from homes, guests from hotels, and spending night together, and it makes another energy of the work. So, among other things, we have this intuition that you should be also invited for spending night, as a part of this story. We are now thinking about, usually you are coming to us and we are offering small hotel or maybe the apartment in our neighbors, yes. This moment that you are, putting your luggage and having your stay. But this could be something more, these people who will host you could be already part of the story from the very beginning. That it's that's how we slowly try to put it in one dramatic structure, but using rather natural elements which will appear during this work.
In the Woods with Grotowski. My second question is about the Senche Chronicles. See, when we had dialogued a couple of years ago, you had talked about taking the way of story making into other communities. And have you been doing that? And what are the results, the theatrical results or other results of that?
Just referring to Grotowski first, you're absolutely right that this is the tradition, yes, but at the same time, Grotowski never did it with the local community. It was always people coming from abroad to a special
Or he went to Africa, or he went to India, right?
Yeah,
Somewhere else,
but
yeah.
the nature was, but there was no people living around. Yes, so that's what we try to explore, and it will change everything. Of course, it's already changing everything, and the same is with exploring these stories. So that's because, of course, the question is how to travel, because we are travelers and we are people to share, to build bridges. We had the way we traveled with Seine Chronicles, always with workshops, with work in local community. Now we have this idea of focusing our work in travel around the bridge building. So the thing we have in mind is that if we will travel with this story, even here to New York, we should somehow manage to build a bridge here with people living here, yeah, and to leave it as something that will remind and work after the common time we have. So that's what I can envision, traveling with that, to Bosnia or to Bhutan, where we work, and always the feeling was I'm living, and the dream was that almost we built a bridge, but it was so would be nice to have it as a installation in public space which will remind us the work and serve for the continuation of something what you can build around this bridge as a meeting place and other things, and as a legitimacy of community, because we understand that if we will build the bridge in the community, it challenges the community. We want to be a bridge community then, yes. So you should prove somehow that this bridge is part of your life somehow.
I insist on Capilla, bridge with Capilla.
Yeah.
Monica.
I guess that the only place that you don't want to go is Venice. But you almost answered the question that I wanted to ask, but I still wanted to provoke you. You had a million of conversations.
We had a million of conversations before on my struggles against festivalization of culture, as I called it, and your struggle for deep culture, as you now coined it. And I understand you defined it through the notion of time and place. Actually, probably also by one old character, as I guess you could evolve. But as I listen to you now and here, I can't forget we're in New York, and I wanted you to comment on the utopia that you can develop so freely in a small village, as opposed to not even a big city like New York, but facing the time of the greatest migration in the history of humanity that we are about to live, meaning the huge migration that is happening now to the cities, and that is happening all over the globe with small communities completely forgetting their local immersion. So it's a provocation, it's a long question, but maybe you can comment on that.
Of course, there's a huge difference between small town and metropolis, and work you can do with huge communities. But the fact is that we are very much invited to work and cooperate with big cities, in fact, with our work. And you know it better than me that big cities now are constellations of small cities, yes, of small towns, and how to revitalize or build a vital big city through small cities, small communities. You can't do it as a grand number. I believe only in small numbers, and it could be as well in big city as in a small one. Also, the context, of course, is sometimes is very different because of immigration, for example, yes, and because of people who were living for centuries in one place, and people who are just newcomers or new migrants, and so on. So how to build the bridges in these different contexts is a huge question, but. I very much believe that you can't bring bridge with yourself, of course. The whole art is how to explore local material to build the bridge. But some craft needed for that is common. It's universal. And the way how we can find the way of understanding in different parts of the world with this work and with this kind of deep culture concept is another important story. As you know, I have experience of working in big cities in Poland. I was engaged in the project we have in Europe, which we call European Capital of Culture.
In Wrocław.
And I believed very much in that concept because I thought that this is the way how you can engage the whole community, the whole city around one program, yes, ambitious program. And I have bad and good experiences of that. Very good experience with Lublin, the eastern city of Poland, where I was artistic director of this program. More complex experience with actual capital of culture in Wrocław. I was also artistic director then, but I had to resign. It was my personal decision, understanding that this is premature, maybe time for deep culture. With deep culture, the story is when during the competition, during planning and having ambitious ideas, it's very good. But when the title is won, then another story comes with politicians, with promotion, with everything around that. So I prefer to resign, saying also something through this resignation. But I have really many partners and people who are on the board of deep cultures, so who are understanding, because I think that we should understand also situation not only from artistic point of view. We were discussing about this from artistic dimension, but it's also I would say social dimension of that. That I very much believe that something what is happening now in Brazil, for example, when citizens protest against Mundial in Brazil because loving soccer, but understanding that they should spend public money more for education, social health, and this huge event is very significant for our time. And we will face the same with culture, I believe. That we spend so much public money for wasted, fireworks and other things, not understanding really the work we should do is in our communities and so on, that could be a kind of a new counterculture process we should face. And I would be very much for deep culture as a counterculture, not in terms of saying that this is bad, like in a very strict way. Deep culture is rather to embrace, to build something common than to divide. But my deep feeling is that we will face very soon in culture this riot of a new counterculture.
So let me finish with, this is going to be a very amateurish translation of the piece that I got from Krzysztof on the agon of the borderlands, because that will bring us a little bit closer to things social. um, uh, the borderlands of the foreign, of the stranger, of the different, and of ours is the territory of Agon, where the human being, where the person is fighting for its own name, where he or she is rereading her or his life, and it becomes what he or she actually is. Agon embraces everything which was not given to us, and which was not constituted or made for us, but what is our own achievement or defeat, our own transgression, or our own zaniechanie, Andrzej, our own neglect. I want to thank you. This is for me and for Jeff. We want to thank you very much for coming. This is a very special day, as I told you, because this is where an amazing new project of the New School, which is called Public Seminar, is actually exploring the possibilities of building bridges with Tcds and other places. So I would like to invite you to stay with us. This is the second part of the evening. It's an open house, and it's a famous pierogi party, and people who had class up to now are going to come here very soon and join us, and Krzysztof promised that he will stay with us longer. So thank you very much.